a man who had nothing left to lose, and a dog who had everything left to give. On a freezing winter night, a broken former soldier finds a dying mother dog and her two tiny puppies in the middle of a brutal snowstorm. He thought he was saving them, but what he didn't know was that those three small lives were about to save him too. What happens next will break your heart, and then put it back together again. So make sure you watch this story until the very end. And if you love powerful, emotional stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you never miss the next one. A man with nothing left to lose, and a dog with everything to give. That is where this story begins. It was the dead of winter when a former Navy SEAL found himself driving through a blizzard with no destination and no reason to keep going. The mountains of Silver Creek, Colorado, had disappeared behind a wall of falling snow, and the road ahead was barely visible. His name was Ethan Cole, 38 years old, broad-shouldered, carved by war and heartbreak into something that looked unbreakable on the outside, but was shattered within. He had once been the kind of soldier that other men followed without hesitation. Now he was just a mechanic in a small town, living alone in a cabin at the edge of nowhere, haunted by a wife he could not save and a war he could not forget. The wipers on his truck fought a losing battle against the snow. He slowed near a familiar curve in the road, a place where a guardrail bent outward from an old accident. A wooden cross stood there, nailed against the pines. He never knew whose it was, but he always eased off the gas when he passed it, as if someone else's grief deserved that small respect. And then something caught his eye, a dark shape against the white. At first it looked like a fallen branch, but then it moved. He hit the brakes. The truck slid sideways and stopped with a crunch of tires in the powder. Through the blur of his windshield, he could see her, a large German shepherd, her fur matted and frozen, curled protectively around two tiny puppies. Their small bodies pressed into her chest, searching for warmth that was no longer there. Ethan opened the door. The cold hit him like a wall. Snowflakes stuck to his beard as he stepped out, boots sinking deep into the drifts. The air tasted like pine and frozen earth. He lowered himself slowly, crouching to their level. "Hey there, easy girl." His voice came out rough and low, the kind of voice that had once cut through radio static and sandstorms, giving orders that kept men alive. The mother lifted her head. Her eyes were amber, wild, and frightened. She did not growl. She did not run. She just looked at him, and in that look was a question he understood without words. Her fur was black and tan, thick but soaked, clumped with frost. One ear drooped slightly, maybe from an old injury. Beneath her, the two puppies barely stirred. Their paws trembled. Their breath was fading. Ethan reached out his hand. The snow stung his skin, reddening his knuckles. His fingers shook, but not from the cold. It was the memory that hit him. 2 winters ago. Another storm. Another road. His wife, Anna, had been sitting beside him, humming along to the radio. Then the tires caught black ice. He still heard the scream of twisting metal in his sleep. The silence that followed. The blood on his gloves. He had carried her through the snow until his legs gave out. She had looked up at him with blue lips and whispered, "It is not your fault." He never believed her. Since that night, guilt had lived inside him like a second heartbeat. Steady, relentless, never quiet. Now, kneeling in the snow before this desperate mother and her dying pups, he saw the same fight in her eyes. The same refusal to surrender even when the ending felt certain. His throat tightened. "You are not dying out here. Not tonight." He unzipped his jacket and removed his scarf, holding it out slowly. One of the puppies let out a sound so faint it could have been a last breath or a first cry. The mother's ears twitched. Her body tensed. Ethan inched closer, his knees sinking deeper into the snow. "It is okay, it is okay." He had said those exact words before. In Afghanistan. To a young soldier, barely 20, shot through the lung. The boy had gripped Ethan's hand and smiled through the blood, believing the lie because Ethan had made it sound like truth. Now he did not know if he was lying again. The German shepherd blinked. Then slowly, she lowered her head, as if surrendering to something bigger than fear. Ethan's hand trembled as he reached forward, palm open. His breath caught when she did not pull away. Her nose touched his fingertips, cold and damp. Their eyes held for one long second. And in that silence, something inside him cracked open. He felt the sting in his eyes before he realized tears were falling. "You are safe now." The words came out like a confession. He lifted the first puppy carefully, wrapping it inside his jacket. It was impossibly light, just bones and a faint trembling warmth. The mother watched, tense but still. When he reached for the second pup, she shifted to let him. The effort cost her. He saw her body sag. "Come on, girl. Let's get you out of this." He carried the puppies to the truck and placed them gently on the back seat. Then he turned for the mother. She had not followed. She sat in the snow, watching him, her breath shallow, steam curling from her nose. She did not trust him fully. And maybe, he thought, he did not fully trust himself either. He crouched again, extended his hand one more time through the swirling white. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then slowly, painfully, she rose. One paw sinking deep, then another, limping forward through the cold toward his outstretched hand. Not far down the road, an old woman named Helen Carter stood at her kitchen window. Her hair was white as frost, her frame small but steady. She wore a faded green cardigan and the kind of house slippers that old people never throw away. She noticed truck lights parked too long near the curve and frowned. The storm was getting worse. She reached for a candle on the table, lit it, and whispered prayer. Let whoever is out there find their way home. Back on the roadside, the German shepherd pressed her nose against Ethan's palm. She leaned into his trembling hand, and something shifted between them. Something neither of them could name, but both of them desperately needed. This was the first time since Anna's death that he had reached out, not to hold on to what was gone, but to save what was still here. The snow kept falling, covering the tracks behind them. And in that small circle of storm and breath and fragile trust, two broken souls found the courage to move toward warmth again. The blizzard had thinned by the time Ethan reached his cabin. The headlights carved a narrow path through the fading white. The world outside had gone quiet and heavy, like breath held too long. His cabin, built of dark pine and stone, sat half buried in snowdrifts. A thin ribbon of smoke rose from the chimney where the fire he had left hours ago was nearly dead. He parked close to the porch and stepped out into the biting cold. Inside the truck, the two puppies huddled beneath wool blankets, faint tremors rolling through their tiny bodies. Their mother lay beside them, fur-crusted with ice, eyes half open but watchful. She had not resisted when he lifted her into the cab, but her gaze had stayed cautious, as if her trust had an expiration she had not yet decided on. "We are home. Let us get you warm." He carried her first, her weight pressed against his chest. She was lighter than she should have been, ribs pushing against his arm, her breathing shallow but steady. He could feel the rhythm of her heart against him, faint and fragile, keeping time with his own. Inside, the cabin smelled of pine wood, old coffee, and a trace of engine oil. The space was simple. A brick hearth along one wall, a small table by the window, two framed photographs gathering dust on the mantel. One showed him in uniform. The other was a woman smiling against a golden field of wheat. Anna. He paused only a heartbeat before turning toward the fire. He laid the dog near the hearth on an old wool rug, then hurried back for the puppies. They were so small they fit in his hands. He wrapped them in a spare flannel shirt and placed them against their mother's belly. She stirred weakly, nosing each one, checking, counting. He added logs to the fire. The dry wood caught with a sigh of sparks. Orange light spread across the room, dancing over rough wood walls, across his tired face, and over the 3 lives he had pulled from the edge of death. Hours passed in silence. Only the crackling fire and the rhythm of breathing. Small, uneven, but alive. Ethan sat on the floor, leaning against the wall, watching them. His hands, scarred and thick from years of war, looked strange beside such fragile creatures. He remembered a night in Kandahar years ago when his team found a wounded street dog near a collapsed building. They fed it scraps from their rations and watched it limp away into the desert darkness. One of his teammates had said something that stuck with him ever since. Funny how we always save everything except ourselves. Ethan had not understood the truth of those words until now. By dawn, the worst of the storm had broken. The sky outside the window glowed a soft gray, snow still whispering against the glass. The mother had begun to recover. She lifted her head when Ethan knelt beside her. Her eyes were softer than before. Her fur, now dry, shimmered under the firelight, black and tan with streaks of silver along her muzzle. She looked older up close, maybe 6 or 7 years. A veteran in her own right. He reached out slowly, and she allowed his hand to rest on her head. Mara. You look like a Mara. The name felt right. Strong, loyal, wounded but proud. The smaller puppy sneezed suddenly and squirmed. Scout. A faint smile crossed his face. The other pup, darker and more stubborn, pressed his nose firmly against his mother's side, refusing to move. And you are Ember. He sat back, the names settling something inside him. For the first time in years, there was warmth in this cabin that had nothing to do with the fire. A knock came at the door. Soft, hesitant. Ethan tensed, instinct flaring before his mind caught up. He opened it to find Helen Carter standing on his porch, small and wrapped in a thick wool coat the color of faded plum. Her cheeks were flushed pink from the cold. Silver hair, escaping the scarf, knotted beneath her chin. Morning, Mr. Cole. Her voice was gentle but firm. She held a basket in both hands, steam rising from it. I saw your truck out last night. You were driving through that storm. Figured you would need something warm. He stepped aside, uncertain. Thank you. I did not mean to worry anyone. Helen moved inside, her boots squeaking softly on the wooden floor. Her eyes widened when she spotted the dogs near the fire. Oh my lord. Found them by the highway. They would not have survived another hour. Helen lowered herself beside Mara, knees cracking slightly with the effort. Her hands were wrinkled and delicate, veins visible beneath the skin, but steady as she stroked the dog's head. You poor thing. She reminds me of Max, my son's dog. Big German Shepherd too. Stayed by his side until... Her voice faltered, but she smiled through it. Always loyal. Always putting others first. Ethan studied her quietly. He knew her son's name from the small memorial plaque near the town square. Daniel Carter, United States Marine Corps. 2008. He had seen Helen there once, laying flowers, her face calm in that particular way that only comes from years of learning how to carry pain without drowning in it. You were a SEAL, were you not? She asked it softly, without looking at him. He hesitated, then nodded. That was a long time ago. Her eyes met his, lit by the fire. You do not stop being one. You just fight different battles after. She stood, brushing her coat. I brought ginger tea and some antibiotics for the dogs. It is the least I can do. Thank you. The words felt small against the size of what she had given him. She smiled faintly. You look like you have not slept in weeks. Keep yourself warm too, Mr. Cole. No good saving lives if you forget your own. After she left, Ethan stood by the door for a long while, watching her small figure disappear into the snow. The candlelight from her kitchen window flickered through the trees. A tiny flame in the distance, steady against the gray. He turned back to the fire. Mara lifted her head, ears twitching. The two puppies stirred, their soft bodies pressing against each other. Ethan sat beside them, the warmth from the hearth wrapping around him like a blanket he had not realized he missed. Outside, the snow began to ease, melting into faint drips from the roof. Inside, small breaths filled the silence. He watched Mara watching him, both of them uncertain what came next. But for now, there was peace. Fragile, fleeting, born of firelight and footsteps and second chances. By late afternoon, the mountains had vanished behind another curtain of white. The second storm rolled down from the northern peaks faster than anyone predicted, advancing like a silent army. The air turned vicious, the kind of cold that burns the lungs with every breath. The pines groaned and swayed under the howling wind. Ethan stood on his porch, watching the light drain from the sky. Inside, the fire crackled weakly, and Mara's breathing had grown shallow. He had noticed the decline that morning. Her steps were slower. She refused food. Her eyes had gone dull. At first, he blamed exhaustion from a cold. But when he felt the tremor running through her flank and heard the thickness in her breathing, he knew fever. He crouched beside her now, pressing his palm against her side. She was burning. Hang in there, girl. You have made it this far. He moved to the corner where an old toolbox doubled as storage. Inside was a small emergency kit, bandages, pain relievers, iodine. Nothing that could fight an infection in a 70-pound dog. The power flickered once, twice. Then it died with a heavy click. The lights went out, leaving the room lit only by the orange glow of the hearth. The silence that followed was unsettling. A world stripped of electricity, stripped of sound, except for the wind outside and the labored rhythm of Mara's chest rising and falling. Ethan looked toward the window. Snow had already buried his porch steps. If the temperature kept dropping, none of them would make it through the night without help. He pulled on his parka and gloves, looked at Mara one more time, her head resting between her paws. I will be right back. Do not give up on me now. The distance to Helen's house was less than a mile. In a storm like this, it felt like 10. Snow reached his knees. Every gust drove needles of ice into his face. He pushed forward, flashlight carving a narrow tunnel through the darkness. He had walked through sandstorms in Afghanistan that lasted for days. But this was different. There were no orders, no team, no mission briefing. Just a single promise he had made to a creature that could not speak a word of it back. By the time he reached Helen's porch, his beard was white with frost. He knocked hard. The door opened and warm light spilled out, golden and soft. Helen stood in a heavy knit shawl, silver hair pulled into a loose bun. Her face was pale but calm, lined with the kind of wrinkles that come from years of kindness rather than bitterness. Ethan, what on earth? She is sick. He cut in, shivering. Mara, I think it is an infection. The power is out my place. I need antibiotics, anything you have for dogs. And your generator if you can spare it. Her expression shifted immediately. Come inside before you freeze solid. Her home smelled of rosemary and old wood polish. Photographs lined the mantel, smiling faces in military dress. A younger Helen standing beside a broad-shouldered man with laughing eyes. Ethan's gaze lingered on one frame in particular. A young soldier in desert camouflage, early 20s, his arm slung around a German shepherd. The words beneath it read Daniel Carter, United States Marines, 2008. Helen followed his eyes and spoke quietly. That is my boy. He served in Basra. He was leading his unit across a riverbed when they came under fire. He pulled 2 men out before. She stopped herself, then exhaled slowly. The dog survived. They sent him back to me afterward. Mux. He lived 4 more years. Slept beside my bed every night until the end. Ethan nodded, his throat tight. He must have been loyal. She smiled sadly. Too loyal. Sometimes they love us past the point of reason. She moved to a cabinet and searched through bottles. Here, these are antibiotics for infections. You will need to crush them and mix them with water. She lifted a portable heater and held it out. And take this. It runs on batteries. Will not last forever, but it will help. Ethan hesitated. I cannot take your last one. Helen's eyes softened. You can, and you will. I have survived worse winters than this one. Besides, you're not the only one who needs saving tonight. She handed him a thermos. This is for you, not for the dog. He took it with a nod. Thank you. The storm had grown worse by the time they stepped onto the porch. Helen frowned at the swirling white chaos. You will never make it back alone. Wait 1 minute. She disappeared inside and returned wearing a thick coat, a scarf, and a flashlight strapped to her wrist. You're not going out there without another pair of hands. You do not have to do this. I know I do not. But some things you just do anyway. Together, they fought through the snow, leaning into the wind. The road had vanished entirely, replaced by a white wasteland. Ethan guided her by memory, gripping her elbow when she stumbled. She was surprisingly strong for her age. Short and sturdy, with the kind of determination that reminded him of the combat medics he had served beside. By the time the cabin appeared through the trees, both of them were shaking from cold. Inside, the air was thin and heavy. Mara lay motionless near the dying fire, her body trembling. The puppies whimpered beside her. Helen set the heater on the floor and crouched without hesitation. She is burning up. We need to bring the temperature down gradually. Give me some water. Ethan filled a bowl from snow he had melted earlier. They crushed the tablets and mixed them carefully. Helen's hands were steady, her movements precise. You would make a fine field medic." She smiled faintly. "I learned from someone who was." They worked through the night. Ethan fed the fire until his arms ached from splitting wood. Helen stayed beside Mara, whispering to her softly as though the dog understood every word. At one point, Ethan caught her murmuring a prayer. The wind screamed outside. The shutters rattled. But inside, there was a stillness born of shared purpose. Sometime past midnight, the puppies stopped crying and fell asleep. Mara's breathing evened out. The violent tremors faded. Helen leaned back, exhaustion painted across her face. Ethan handed her a blanket. She took it, then looked at him. "You know, Daniel was not trying to be a hero that day. He told me once that he did not believe in medals. He just believes some people are born to protect others, no matter the cost." Ethan stared into the fire. Maybe he was right. She nodded slowly. "You, that doll, my boy. You all share the same stubborn heart." Outside, the first pale light of dawn crept through the snow clouds. Mara stirred, lifting her head for the first time in hours. Her amber eyes found Ethan's, and she exhaled a slow, steady breath. Relief flooded through him, quiet but immense. Helen reached over and touched his shoulder. "You did not just save her. You saved yourself." He did not answer. He simply looked at the dog, the firelight dancing across her fur, and understood that the battle he had been fighting all these years had never been in the deserts overseas. It had been here, in the silence of his own heart, waiting for something worth saving again. The storm passed, and Silver Creek emerged wrapped in white silence. Snow glistened under pale sunlight, smooth and untouched, except for a few paw prints trailing from the cabin porch into the trees. The air was crisp and clean, the kind that carries both stillness and the quiet promise of something new. Inside, the cabin smelled different now. Not of smoke and loneliness, but of life. Vetfur, pinewood, and something quietly human. Mara lay near the hearth, breathing strong again, her coat thick and gleaming once more. A small scar marked her shoulder where Helen's careful treatment had drawn the infection out. Her amber eyes tracked the movement of her two pups as they tumbled across the wooden floor. Scout and Ember had grown sturdy enough to cause real chaos. They wrestled with clumsy enthusiasm, paws thumping, tails wagging wildly. Scout, the lighter one with sand-colored paws, was bold and fearless. He barked at his own reflection in the iron kettle, tail beating like a drum. Ember, smaller and darker, stayed closer to his mother, but occasionally launched himself at his brother's ear with surprising ferocity. Their noise filled the cabin with small explosions of joy, the kind that chased away ghosts that had lived in those walls far too long. Ethan sat at the workbench by the window, oiling the old harmonica in his hands. His hair had grown longer, curling slightly at the nape of his neck. Sunlight caught the silver streaks among the brown. He looked older than before, but calmer, as if the weight on his shoulders had not disappeared, but had shifted into something he could carry. He glanced over at the dogs, and the corner of his mouth lifted. "You two are nothing but trouble." Scout barked, as if to confirm. Helen had started visiting more often after the night of the storm. Sometimes she brought soup, sometimes just her company. She arrived that morning with her usual soft knock, wrapped in her heavy, plum-colored coat, scarf tucked neatly under her chin, cheeks glowing pink from the walk. "Ich komme bering gifts." And before you argue, I do not take orders from retired soldiers. Ethan laughed, a low, rough sound, almost rusty from disuse. "You sure you want to keep trudging through the snow for a man living with 3 freeloaders?" Helen's eyes twinkled. "Those freeloaders saved you, if I recall correctly. And besides, I needed to see them." She bent down as Scout ran to greet her, his tail sweeping the floor. "Well, look at you. You have gotten big enough to cause real damage." Ember hung back shyly, watching from safe distance. Helen held out her hand. "Come here, little one." Slowly, the puppy crept forward and pressed his nose against her palm. As Helen set down her basket, Ethan noticed something he had not before. A slight limp in her step. "You all right?" "Oh, just an old injury. Fell off a ladder 2 winters ago, fixing a gutter. Daniel would have scolded me for that, if he were still around." Her tone softened when she said her son's name. But it was not sorrow anymore. It was the sound of someone who had finally learned to hold a memory without being cut by it. She moved through the cabin with the ease of someone who belonged there. Your roof is still dripping near the kitchen. You need to patch that before the next melt. I have been meaning to. Meaning to does not count. I will help. True to her word, she climbed onto a stool with a hammer while Ethan held it steady. Together they replaced 2 warp planks and sealed the seam with tar. The work was quiet, but there was comfort in the silence. A wordless rhythm between 2 people who did not need conversation to understand each other. When they finished, Ethan brewed coffee on the stove. Helen sat by the fire while Mara rested her head in her lap. You know, Daniel once brought home a stray when he was 12. Scruffy little thing with 1 bent ear. I told him we cannot keep it. But he said, Mom, some things you just cannot turn away from, no matter how small. She smiled wistfully. He was right. Ethan stared into his cup, the steam fogging his vision. I used to think saving people was about missions and objectives and tactical planning. But it is really just showing up when nobody else will. Helen looked at him closely, the firelight reflected in her eyes. You're not just showing up anymore, Ethan. You're living again. He did not respond, but the faint smile returned. Outside, the wind had quieted. Through the window, he could see snow melting from the branches, dripping like silver threads. The world was thawing. Slowly, stubbornly, beautifully. Later that afternoon, Helen prepared to leave. Ethan offered to walk her halfway. She refused gently. You've got your hands full here. And besides, I like the quiet of walking home. Reminds me I'm still strong enough to do it. He helped her in her coat anyway. Thank you. For what? For not letting me stay a ghost. Her smile deepened, her eyes bright with something between joy and ache. We all need a reason to keep the fire burning. You found yours. After she left, Ethan returned to the hearth. The puppies were tangled together in sleep, bellies rising and falling. Mara watched him, her tail thumping once against the rug. He sat on the floor beside them, leaning against the couch. The sun was dipping low, casting long bars of gold across the cabin. The harmonica sat on the mantel where it had been untouched for years. It had belonged to Anna. Her laughter still lived somewhere in the walls of this house. He hesitated, then reached for it. The first note was shaky, uncertain, but as he played, the sound steadied, soft and soulful, almost human. Scout lifted his head curiously. Ember yawned and curled tighter against Mara. The melody was simple, one Anna used to hum while washing dishes. Home, home again. By the second verse, something unexpected happened. Ethan laughed. It was not loud or forced. It simply escaped, raw and honest, like air finally finding its way back into lungs that had forgotten how to breathe. The sound surprised even him. Outside, the sky blushed orange as the sun slipped behind the pines. Down the road, Helen paused on her walk home. She turned at the faint sound of a harmonica carried on the wind. Through the cabin window, she could see him. Ethan sitting cross-legged on the floor, the dogs curled around him, firelight glowing against his face. For the first time since Daniel's death, the tears that came were not grief, they were peace. She whispered to herself, he is finally home. And in that quiet mountain valley, laughter, small, human, and whole, found its way back to both of them. The first sign of trouble arrived on a quiet morning that smelled of melting snow and fresh coffee. The air outside had softened. Spring was tiptoeing toward Silver Creek. Patches of grass peeked through the white crust, and the stream behind Ethan's land had begun to murmur again beneath its thinning shell of ice. Inside the cabin, warmth and noise filled every corner. Scout and Ember wrestled near the door, paws clicking on wood. Mara watched from her spot beside the hearth, head tilted, Amber eyes bright with contentment. IT had been weeks since the blizzard. Life had settled into a rhythm, simple, wordless, and whole. Ethan sat by the window, oiling the harmonica. His beard had grown in thicker now, salt and pepper, softening the hard lines of his jaw. He looked older than 38, but steadier. His movements were patient, deliberate. He had learned to measure peace the way soldiers learn to measure distance, by how long it lasts before something shatters it. The knock came without warning. 3 firm raps on the wooden door. Too sharp to be Helen. Mara's ears shot up. Scout and Ember froze mid-tumble, tails rigid. Ethan frowned, stood, and opened the door. A man in uniform stood on the porch. His presence cut through the calm like a blade through frost. Early 40s, tall and solid from years spent outdoors. He wore the dark green insignia of the Montana Department of Wildlife. The name patch on his chest read Daniels. His face was square and weathered, skin darkened by the sun, sandy hair dusted with snow. His expression was polite, but underneath it sat the unmistakable weight of official business. Morning. You Ethan Cole? Ethan nodded slowly. That is me. Officer Daniels, State Wildlife Service. He held out a badge. Metal caught the light. We have received a report. Someone in this area has been keeping wild animals. Specifically a large canine species matching a German Shepherd or Wolf hybrid. Sound familiar? Ethan's stomach dropped. He stepped aside just enough to let the officer see the firelit room behind him. You're looking at them. They are German Shepherds. Domestic. The mother was abandoned, not wild. I found them during the blizzard. Daniels' eyes swept the room. He studied Mara, then the pups, his gaze narrowing. Abandoned. You got paperwork? Veterinary records? Ownership tax? Ethan shook his head. They were dying in the snow. There was not exactly time for paperwork. The officer sighed, pulling a small notebook from his chest pocket. Look, Mr. Cole, I'm not here to start trouble, but protocol is clear. Any unregistered canines found near protected zones are subject to verification. There have been reports of hybrids in this area. People breeding wolves with shepherds and selling them. It is illegal. Ethan clenched his jaw. You think I'm running some kind of operation? Daniels met his stare evenly. I think you're a man with 3 untagged animals on state land. I need proof they're domestic, or they will have to be taken in for evaluation. Mara let out a low growl, her body going rigid. The officer took a cautious step back. Ethan dropped to one knee beside her, resting a calming hand on her neck. It is all right, girl. He is not here to hurt you. But Mara did not relax. She pressed closer to her pups, tail low, ears pinned flat. Something in her recognized authority, not as safety, but as danger. Her amber eyes moved between the officer and the open door behind him. Calculating. Ethan stood again, his voice carefully measured. They have been with me for months. I trained them, fed them. They are not wild. I do not doubt you care about them. But caring and compliance are 2 different things. These are not yours to keep unless you can prove ownership. The words hit like a physical blow. Not yours to keep. For a moment, the desert flashed behind his eyes. The day his squad was ordered to abandon a wounded military dog after an ambush. He had argued with command. They had to go back. The last thing he saw through the dust storm was the dog's silhouette fading into smoke, still trying to crawl toward him. That guilt had followed him home like a shadow with teeth. Duddy took a breath. Give me a week. I will get you the papers. Whatever it takes. Daniel scribbled something in his notebook. You have got 72 hours. After that, if they're still unregistered, I will have to call animal control. He paused. I am sorry, Mr. Cole. Ethan nodded stiffly. Yeah, I bet you are. The officer hesitated at the threshold, glancing once more at the dogs. You seem like a good man. Do not make me. Come back with a cage. He stepped outside. The door closed behind him. Silence filled the cabin. Thick and uneasy. Mara whimpered softly, pacing near the door. Ethan crouched to comfort her, but she pulled away, tail tucked, eyes wild with a fear that went deeper than any storm. Then she moved. In one quick motion, she turned, nudged Scout and Ember toward the back door, pushed the latch open with her nose, and bolted into the snow. Mara! Ethan lunged after her, but she was fast. Her dark shape vanished into the white, the 2 pups scrambling at her heels. Only a trail of paw prints remained, leading toward the tree line. He stood in the doorway, breath ragged, watching the family disappear beneath the pines. For the first time since Anna's death, he felt that same hollow collapse inside him. The silence that follows loss, louder than any explosion. By nightfall, Helen arrived, lantern in hand. Her expression turned grave when she saw Ethan sitting beside a dead fire, the empty collars lying on the table. I heard the truck from town. Who is it? State officer. So they were not mine to keep. His voice was barely above a whisper. They are gone, Helen. I tried to stop them, but Helen set the lantern down. Her eyes were wet. Oh, Ethan. She sat beside him, hands folded neatly in her lap. Do not you give up now. We can fight this. He looked at her, exhausted. Fight the state? They will never listen. Maybe not to a soldier, but they might listen to a mother. She opened her worn leather satchel and began pulling out papers. Old registration forms. Letters. An adoption certificate from when her son had rescued a German shepherd years ago. If we can show Mara comes from a domestic line, maybe even trace her back to the Carter family records, we can prove she is no wild hybrid. She could have been abandoned by someone. You found her. That makes you her rescuer, not her captor. Ethan stared at her. The faintest spark returned to his eyes. You would do that for me? Helen smiled gently. No, Ethan. I'm doing it for her. And for you. You are not losing another family. Not if I can help it. Outside, the forest was a dark sea of snow and shadows. Ethan stood, grabbed his coat, his flashlight, and the small leather collar he had made weeks ago for Mara. Etched into its brass tag were 5 words. Never leave your pack behind. He turned to Helen, voice quiet but certain. If there is even a chance she is out there, I'm going. Helen nodded. Then go. But do not go alone in your heart this time. He stepped into the cold. The beam of his flashlight cut through the night. Snowflakes swirled like ghosts around him as he followed the fading tracks into the forest, whispering the same words that had guided him through war zones and loss alike. Hold on, girl. I am coming. Night had swallowed Silver Creek whole. The forest was reduced to a blur of white shadows and breathless cold. Ethan's flashlight cut trembling arcs through the darkness, its beams slicing across tree trunks glazed with frost. The wind moaned low through the valley, carrying the smell of snow and pine sap. Every step sank deep into the drifts, boots breaking through ice and silence. The paw prints he followed, 3 sets, 1 large and 2 small, were disappearing fast under fresh snowfall. He kept his eyes locked on them, breath escaping in ragged clouds of steam. Hold on, girl. Just hold on. The forest stretched on without end. The kind of quiet that makes the mind create things that are not there. His flashlight swept over claw marks on the bark of a pine tree. Fresh. Mara had been through here recently, scared, disoriented. Her instincts would have driven her uphill, away from roads, toward the old ravine that sliced through the forest like a wound in the earth. His gut tightened. He knew that place. Steep, unstable, half frozen. The kind of terrain that could swallow something alive and never return it. He pushed forward. His training kicked in automatically. Control breathing. Short bursts of energy. Conserve heat. Maintain awareness. But underneath the disciplined pulse, something raw and entirely human. A panic he had not felt since the battlefield. Back then, it was for the men in his unit. Now it was for a dog and 2 fragile lives that had somehow become his family. The snow deepened as he reached the edge of the ravine. He stopped, scanned the slope with his light. Nothing, just a jagged gash of earth, and ice dropping into blackness. Then he heard it, a faint, broken whimper carried upward by the wind. His chest seized. Mara. His voice echoed down the canyon walls. Another sound answered, a bark, desperate but alive. He dropped to his knees and angled the flashlight downward. There, 20 feet below, half buried in the snow, he saw them. Mara was pressed against the wall of the ravine, one leg twisted at a wrong angle, her body curved protectively around Scout and Ember. The pups moved weakly, their fur matted with frost. The fall had probably happened hours ago. The snow must have collapsed beneath their weight. Ethan's heart hammered. They would not last much longer. He scanned for a way down. There was none. The slope was nearly vertical, the walls slick with ice. He uncoiled the climbing rope from his pack, standard military line he had kept from his service days. His shoulder ached from an old injury, but there was no time to consider that. He tied one end to a pine trunk, looped the other around his waist, tested the tension. You have done this 1,000 times. He tried to ignore how badly his hand was shaking. The first few feet were manageable. Boots dug into frozen dirt, found purchase. Then the snow gave way. He slipped. The rope snapped tight against his harness. Pain tore through his left shoulder, deep, burning wrong. He gritted his teeth and breathed through it. Below him, Mara barked once, weak but urgent, as if telling him not to stop. He pushed downward, muscles screaming, until his boots finally touched the floor of the ravine. Mara lifted her head slightly. Her eyes were wide and glassy. When she saw him, her body relaxed just enough for the pups to stir beneath her. "Good girl. You are okay now. I have got you." Her paw was bleeding from a deep gash. He pulled the emergency blanket from his pack and wrapped the puppies first, tucking them inside his jacket against his chest. They trembled violently, but kept breathing. Then came Mara. She tried to stand. Her leg buckled. Ethan slid one arm beneath her chest and gripped the rope with the other. "You're coming home." The climb back up was agony. Cold bit into every inch of exposed skin. The rope carved into his palms. His shoulder screamed with every pull. Twice his boots slipped, sending cascades of snow down the ravine wall. But he did not stop. He could feel Mara's breath warm against his arm. He could hear Scout's faint whimper through the layers of his jacket. Every sound kept him moving. Halfway up, a light appeared above him. Another flashlight, brighter than his own. A voice shouted over the wind, deep and steady. "Cole, hold tight." Ethan squinted upward. Officer Daniels stood at the edge of the ravine, rope in hand, breath clouding the frozen air. His flashlight beam found Ethan's face. "You are insane, but I am not letting you do this alone." Daniels anchored his rope and lowered another line. Together they worked without speaking. Ethan pushing upward, Daniels pulling from above. When Ethan reached the top, both men collapsed onto the snow, gasping. Mara lay beside them, her head resting on Ethan's chest. The puppy stirred faintly inside his coat, small paws twitching. Daniels looked at the scene for a long moment. The sternness in his face dissolved into something entirely human. "You risked your life for them." Ethan wiped frost from his beard. "They are my family." The officer nodded slowly, something shifting behind his eyes. "Yeah, I can see that." He removed his own jacket and laid it over Mara. "Let us get them home." By the time they reached the cabin, the sky had begun to pale with dawn. Helen was waiting on the porch, her lantern burning low, her hands clasped together in silent prayer. When she saw Ethan emerging from the tree-line, coat torn, face bloodied, Mara cradled in his arms, two small heads peeking weakly from inside his jacket, she gasped. Her hand pressed against her heart. "Oh, thank the Lord." As Daniels carried supplies inside, Helen reached out and touched Ethan's arm. "You did it." He smiled faintly, exhaustion pulling at every muscle in his face. Could not let her go. Helen helped settle Mara near the fire, wrapping her injured leg with clean bandages. The puppies huddled against their mother, already warming. Daniel stood in the corner, watching quietly. "You know, I will have to file a report, but it is going to say you rescued a domestic dog and her litter from a ravine. Nothing about hybrids. Nothing about state seizure." He paused. Sometimes the rules forget what they are actually for. Maybe they need reminding. Helen looked at him with quiet gratitude. "You are a good man, Officer Daniels." He smiled tiredly. "I have just seen too many creatures punished for trying to survive." When he left, dawn had fully broken over the valley, painting the snow in gold. Helen poured Ethan a cup of tea and sat beside him. "You see, God does not take without giving something back." That night, after Helen had gone home and the fire burned low, Ethan sat on the floor beside Mara. She rested her head on his knee. Her breath was deep and steady. Scout and Ember were curled against her belly, fast asleep. Outside, snow fell softly, no longer a threat, a benediction, flakes drifting through starlight like small white promises. Ethan looked down at the family sleeping beside him and whispered, "Never leave your pack behind." For the first time, he believed it. Spring came to Silver Creek like a quiet apology after months of ice. The mountains that had been buried in white now shimmered under sunlight. Snow melted into streams that sang through the valley. Pine needles gleamed with dew, and the air smelled of thawing earth and new beginnings. The forest that had nearly claimed their lives was breathing again, full of birdsong and color. Ethan Cole stood on the porch of his cabin, sleeves rolled up, hammer in hand. The sharp rhythm of nails striking would echoed across the clearing. But this time he was not repairing storm damage or patching leaks. He was building something new, something meant to last. Across the clearing, Helen Carter sat in a folding chair, gray hair tied back with a patterned scarf, clipboard resting on her lap. She wore a pale blue cardigan despite the warmth, her posture straight and proud. "You have done all this in 3 weeks." There was admiration in her voice. Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead. 3 weeks, 5 bruises, and 7 broken nails. But it is coming together. Helen looked up at the wooden sign he had just nailed above the doorway. The letters were carved by hand. Silver Creek Haven, for those who served and stayed. Below the words, a small bronze plaque gleamed, a Navy insignia beside a paw print. "You sure about the name?" Ethan nodded. "This place saved me. Maybe it can do the same for others." Soldiers who came home, but never figured out what to do with the silence. Helen's eyes softened. And the dogs? They fought the same battles. They deserve peace too. The idea had taken root during the long winter nights. Sitting by the fire with Mara's head on his lap and the pups curled at his feet, he had realized that what healed him was not just surviving. It was connection. The way Mara had trusted him, despite every reason not to. The way Scout and Ember had grown from trembling shadows into spirited, fearless dogs. They had rebuilt something inside him that war and grief had dismantled. Now, with the help of Daniels and Helen, he was turning the healing into a mission. The cabin and surrounding land had become Silver Creek Haven, a small sanctuary for retired and injured service dogs, the forgotten veterans of someone else's wars. Daniels drove up that afternoon in his dusty green state truck. He stepped out carrying a box of supplies, leashes, harnesses, and freshly printed permits. His uniform jacket was off, sleeves rolled to the elbow, revealing strong forearms marked with old scars. "You were not kidding." He looked around at the new kennels and fenced training yard. "You have built yourself a proper base camp." Ethan grinned. "Guess I never learned how to sit still." Daniels walked over, handing him a stack of papers. "Everything is cleared. Silver Creek Haven is officially recognized as a rescue and rehabilitation site. You will receive funding through the state's Veteran Outreach Program." He hesitated, then smiled. "And the department wants me to oversee your first intake." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You volunteering?" Daniel shrugged. "Let's say I've been doing this job a long time. Feels good to be on the side of something that saves instead of confiscates." Helen chuckled from her chair. "I knew you had a soft heart under that badge. Do not tell anyone." By early May, the first rescues arrived. 3 German shepherds, a Belgian Malinois, and an aging Labrador with cloudy eyes. All had served in the military or law enforcement. All carried wounds you could not see. Ethan greeted each one by kneeling and letting them come to him first. He spoke softly, with the kind of patience that only someone who understood trauma could offer. Mara watched from the porch, her tail swaying slowly. Scout and Ember bounded nearby, bursting with curiosity. The new dogs followed Mara's lead, drawn to her calm authority. She became the matriarch of the haven, a silent teacher. When one of the newcomers, a scarred Malinois named Rex, refused to eat for 2 days, Mara approached him on her own. She lay down beside him and stayed there until he ate. Ethan watched from a distance, the corners of his mouth lifting. "Guess she has better instincts than I do." Helen documented everything. Her handwriting, though a bit unsteady with age, was clear enough to capture the heart of what was happening. She began writing an article for the local magazine, the Colorado Homestead Chronicle. Her piece was not about a hero or a miracle. It was about a man and his dogs, and how love could piece together what loss had broken. The article ran in June under the title, "The Haven at Silver Creek, where healing has 4 legs." Within days, letters started arriving. Handwritten envelopes postmarked from Montana, Colorado, and Wyoming. Some came from veterans who had lost their canine partners in service. Others from widows who said the story made them weep. One letter, written in elegant cursive from Denver, simply said, "You have reminded me that kindness still wins." Helen read each one aloud to Ethan in the evenings. Sometimes she laughed. Sometimes she wiped her eyes. Ethan listened with one hand resting on Mara's head. The outpouring from strangers did not make him proud. It made him humble. They think I taught them something. But the truth is, these dogs taught me how to live again. By summer, Silver Creek Haven had become a small miracle in the mountains. The wooden fences gleamed with fresh paint. The fields rang with barking and play. Helen tended flower beds by the gate, lavender and sunflowers, her favorites. Daniels dropped by weekly, half for inspections, half for coffee. Sometimes he stayed late, sharing old patrol stories while Scout dozed at his feet. Ethan began running training sessions for volunteers, teaching them how to handle the dogs with gentleness rather than force. They have already done their fighting. Now they need kindness. The volunteers, mostly locals and a handful of veterans from nearby towns, followed his lead without question. One late afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the pines, Ethan stood near the pasture, watching Mara chase Scout and Ember through the tall grass. Their fur caught the light like gold. Helen approached quietly. A warm breeze tugged at the edge of her shawl. She stopped beside him and looked out at the scene. "They are free because you let them be." Ethan did not answer right away. He watched as Mara paused, turning back toward him with her tongue hanging in a happy pant. Scout tackled Ember playfully, and all three tumbled together in the grass. The sight filled his chest with something too large for words. He exhaled slowly, and years of heaviness lifted with the breath. Maybe freedom is not about leaving. Maybe it is about finding somewhere worth staying. Helen smiled, her eyes glistening. "Then I would say you found it." As twilight spread across the valley, the sound of dogs and the rustle of wind through pine trees blended into a single song, one of peace, purpose, and belonging. And for the first time, Ethan truly understood that Silver Creek Haven was not just a shelter for broken creatures. It was living proof that broken things can still build beautiful worlds. By the time another summer reached Silver Creek, the air no longer carried the sting of those old winters that once haunted Ethan's sleep. The valley had turned gold under long, generous daylight. The river ran clear and slow as glass. The pines shimmered like emerald towers against an endless blue sky. The rescue center, once a cluster of raw wood and stubborn hope, now stood solid and alive. Kennels freshly painted, fences lined with climbing flowers, laughter echoing from volunteers who came each week to help. Yet even inside that peace, there was a quiet shift, a soft awareness that time, like the river, never stops moving. Mara had begun to slow down. Her once powerful stride had softened into a careful, deliberate walk. The fur around her muzzle was flecked with more gray than before. Her breath came heavier after every chase. But her eyes, the same deep amber that had first met Ethan's hand during that blizzard so long ago, still glowed with gentle intelligence and calm. When a younger dog's roughhoused near the fence, she would simply watch, tail wagging lightly, teaching them with her patience instead of her voice. Ethan had noticed a change months earlier. He never said a word about it. He just started waking earlier, taking her on shorter walks, brushing her coat longer at dusk, talking to her softly about things only the heart understands. His own hair had gone a shade grayer too, but his eyes were clearer, steadier. The heaviness that once defined him had been replaced by something quieter, a peace born not from forgetting pain, but from learning to live beside it. That morning, the sun climbed lazily above the hills, spilling gold across the grass. Mara lay near the porch, Scout and Ember pressed close against her sides. Ethan sat nearby, sipping coffee from a metal cup. Daniels was visiting again, dressed in civilian clothes now, badge replaced by a sunburn and a carpenter's tan. He had taken early retirement and moved closer to Silver Creek to help full-time at the Haven. He leaned against the porch railing, arms folded, watching the dogs. "She is still the queen of this place." His voice was low but affectionate. Ethan smiled faintly. "She always will be." Helen joined them a few minutes later, carrying a tray of lemonade. At 70, her steps had slowed, but her spirit had not dimmed an inch. She wore a wide straw hat and a floral dress, her skin soft and weathered from decades under mountain light. "You boys planning to work today, or just stand around philosophizing?" Daniels chuckled. "Depends who is asking. If it is you, I will grab a hammer. If it is him, we are having a meeting." Ethan grinned, but his gaze stayed on Mara. She has been quieter lately. Helen set the tray down and followed his eyes. Her expression softened into something deep and knowing. "She is telling you it is almost time." That evening, the valley glowed under the orange haze of sunset. Ethan opened the gate to the rescue field and whistled softly. Scout and Ember bounded forward, tails high and proud. Mara hesitated for a heartbeat, then stood. Her legs were steady, but deliberate. She looked back at Ethan, waiting. He walked beside her through the tall grass. The sound of crickets hummed all around them. They reached the edge of the open valley, the same stretch of land where, more than a year ago, he had found them buried in snow. The same ground that had witnessed both death and rebirth. The hills shimmered under the fading sun. Wildflowers painted the earth in streaks of purple and gold. Ethan knelt, resting a hand gently on Mara's back. "This is where I found you. Guess it is where I am supposed to let you go." She turned her head toward him, her eyes calm, almost knowing. Scout and Ember barked and sprinted ahead, chasing each other through the golden grass. Mara took one step, then another, her pace slow but certain. Ethan watched, his throat tightening as she paused midway across the field and looked back one final time. For a heartbeat, time held its breath. The light caught her fur, turning it silver and gold. "Go on. You are free." His voice cracked on the last word. She turned, lifted her head toward the breeze, and ran. Her stride was uneven at first, then strong again, like an echo of her younger self. The two pups followed close behind. Their shapes grew smaller until they were just moving shadows against the golden distance. Ethan stood there, tears slipping unnoticed down his face. He watched until the sound of their barking faded into the rustle of the wind. He smiled through the ache. It was not lost this time. It was release. Later that night, the cabin was quiet. Only the steady ticking of the clock and the murmur of crickets filled the air. Ethan sat at his desk, pen in hand, writing by lamplight. His handwriting was firm, but unhurried. The letter was addressed simply to Helen. "Dear Helen, I used to think a soldier's duty was to fight, to hold the line, to never let go. But now I know, sometimes the bravest thing a man can do is help another soul live and then learn how to say goodbye. Mara taught me that. She did not just survive. She showed me how to. Thank you for believing a broken man could build something good." Ethan, he sealed the letter, placed it beside Helen's basket of herbs on the table, then stepped outside. The night was warm. The moon hung pale and kind above the pines. Somewhere far off, a faint bark echoed, low, steady, and familiar. Ethan looked toward the valley and smiled. The next afternoon, Helen found the letter in her mailbox. She sat on her porch to read it, the sunlight soft against her hands. When she finished, she folded the paper carefully, pressed it against her chest, and closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Not sadness. Gratitude. As dusk settled, she sat watching the horizon. The sky was brushed with pink and gold. From somewhere beyond the trees came a faint chorus of barking, carried gently on the wind. She smiled through trembling lips and whispered to no one in particular. They found a way home, and so did he. The sound faded into the rustle of summer leaves, leaving only peace behind. Sometimes miracles do not arrive as thunder or blinding light. They come quietly, through a pair of gentle eyes, a hand extended in mercy, or the simple, brave act of letting go. This story reminds us that grace often moves through ordinary people and wounded hearts, turning pain into purpose, loneliness into compassion, and endings into beginnings. If you have ever felt lost, remember that the same force that guided a soldier and a dog through the storm is watching over you too. Share this story with someone who needs hope today. Leave a comment about where you're watching from. And subscribe if you believe that every soul, human or animal, deserves a second chance. May you stay warm wherever you are.